My name is James Thompson, and I've always been fascinated by urban exploration. Old buildings, abandoned places, forgotten history. These have been my passion for as long as I can remember. But there's one experience that still haunts me to this day. One that I rarely talk about because it's hard for people to believe. It happened 2 years ago at an abandoned asylum on the outskirts of town. It was a crisp autumn evening when my friend Mark and I decided to explore the old Willowbrook Asylum. The place had been shut down in the 1970s after a series of scandals and patient deaths. Over the years, it had become a magnet for thrill seekers and ghost hunters. We'd heard the stories, whispers of ghostly figures, unexplained noises, and even reports of people feeling an overwhelming sense of dread while inside. But Mark and I were skeptics. We wanted to see for ourselves. We arrived just before sunset, armed with flashlights, cameras, and a sense of adventure. The asylum loomed before us, a hulking structure of brick and broken windows, its facade covered in ivy. As we stepped through the rusted gates, I felt a chill run down my spine. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else, something I couldn't quite place. We made our way inside through a broken window. The interior was even more unsettling. Graffiti covered the walls, and debris littered the floor. Our footsteps echoed in the empty hallways. We decided to start with the main building, where the most notorious events supposedly took place. The first few rooms we explored were empty, just remnants of old furniture and medical equipment. Then we reached the central hallway. As we walked, I began to feel an inexplicable sense of unease. The air grew colder and the light from our flashlights seemed to dim. We reached a large room that appeared to be a common area for patients. There were old, overturned chairs and a broken piano in one corner. That's when we heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. I turned to Mark, but he looked just as puzzled as I was. We stood still, listening. The whispering grew louder, though we couldn't make out any words. It seemed to be coming from all around us. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Let's check the basement," Mark suggested, trying to sound brave. I nodded, and we made our way down a narrow staircase. The basement was pitch black, and the air was damp and musty. We found ourselves in a long corridor lined with old patient rooms. As we moved deeper, the sense of dread intensified. The whispers continued, now accompanied by faint, echoing footsteps. We reached the end of the corridor and found a door slightly ajar. Inside was a small room with a single rusted bed frame and chains on the walls. My flashlight flickered, and for a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing in the corner. I blinked, and it was gone. Then we heard a scream, a blood-curdling, anguished scream that echoed through the basement. It was so loud and filled with so much pain that it made my blood run cold. Mark and I exchanged terrified glances and bolted for the stairs. As we ran, the footsteps seemed to follow us, getting closer and closer. I could feel a presence right behind me, something cold and malevolent. We burst out of the basement and didn't stop running until we were outside the asylum gates. We stood there, gasping for breath, too shaken to speak. When we finally caught our breath, we swore never to go back. A few days later, I did some research and found that the room in the basement had been used for solitary confinement. Patients who were considered dangerous or unmanageable were chained there for days, sometimes weeks, in total darkness. Many of them went mad or died in that room. I still can't explain what we experienced that night. Was it the spirits of the tortured patients, still trapped in their own personal hell? Or was it something else? something darker that fed off the fear and pain that permeated that place. All I know is that Willowbrook Asylum is a place best left undisturbed. I've had my fill of urban exploration, and I no longer seek out the unknown. Some mysteries are better left unsolved, and some places are haunted, not just by ghosts, but by the echoes of human suffering.